California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in the Central Valley today, part of our roadshow on California Edition. We are in Turlock, and we are joined by John Pedrozo. He is a supervisor in Merced County. We drove through Merced to arrive in Turlock. I want to thank you for joining us, sir. Merced, like the entire Central Valley, reliant on agriculture.
Big time.
You know, we are so concerned as Californians about the state of the ag industry during this drought.
Right.
Talk to us about you, your neighbors. How are you doing?
It's a challenge. I mean, it's something that I experienced a drought in 1977,
Right.
and this is 10 times worse.
Really?
And you're seeing in my particular district, which is District 1,
Right.
we're seeing domestic wells. People needing assistance. My community.
Are you talking about the ground wells?
Ground wells, the domestic wells.
Yeah, let me ask you about ground wells, because I've heard from so many that those that have their own ground wells, they're drilling deeper and deeper and deeper. Sometimes they're hitting more water. Other times they're seeing subsidence. And so how's it going?
Well, when you say I'm glad you're bringing this
Please.
up right now, but Merced County right now, we're in the process of developing a groundwater ordinance. And not saying that it's not the moratorium word, what everybody hates to hear.
Right.
But the county didn't have a groundwater ordinance, so we're in the process now of implementing an ordinance
As a result
of what's been happening. And
in Sacramento, though, I mean, the legislation.
Yeah, because by 2020 we're going to have something.
Or the state will come in.
And the state will come in, so we
You
want
don't
to be
want that.
ahead of it.
Right.
But what we're having is, we're not saying that people, the ag industry, and we know how vital the ag industry is in Merced County and in the state, but you're just going to have to, if it impacts your surrounding neighbors, and there's basins now that cross other basins in other counties, you want to make sure that you're not implementing your neighbors and you're not depleting our precious commodity underneath.
No, I got it.
So, I mean, there's some things that... my dad used to say, God rest his soul.
Are you a farmer, by the way, yourself?
I was born and raised in the dairy business, and we still own land. Most of it's leased out, but I still stay on top of this very well. So I do know the impacts, but I also know, we don't want to, there's a question out there that the aquifer that comes underneath us, whose is it? And, property rights come into play.
It's fascinating.
And,
actually.
and then like I said before, you have the basins, and Merced County has 4 basins that cross other
Are they
counties.
adjudicated, or are they?
And so, that's
Okay.
the whole issue right now. So we're going through, it's a process, and I've learned a lot, but my dad always used to say, out of something bad comes something good. So maybe this will be one of those things to where it'll bring more awareness to it. No one wants to see us go through another drought year, but it's one of those things that something needs to be done to bring people more aware of how vital that is.
Although I was looking at some studies, and we know that Californians have come together and our water use is down.
Right.
And as much as we want to beat up on agriculture, yes, ag uses a lot of water, it does seem as if their use is down even better than residential.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of that's because of technology.
Sure.
But look, I mean...
You have to.
Right.
That's first and foremost. The technology's come a long ways, and I go back to back in the day when everything was flood irrigated, and now everything is now micro and drip, and so the efficiency's there, the technology's there. It's just.
I do want to ask you though about crops and crop selection. So I know that in the Central Valley there are a lot of farmers that are planting for almonds, for pistachios, for grapes. We love all those crops, but they are thirsty, my friend.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if maybe we need to look at our crop choices. Should we be planting for crops that are so darn thirsty?
Well, but here's the thing, Brad. That you come into, that's a property rights issue, so you should be able to.
No, I got it.
No, and I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think the problem I'm having more is native pasture being converted into permanent crops. That's one of our problems.
Explain.
Is that you're having the native pastures that is set fallow. In the wintertime when we get the rains, people put their beef cattle out there.
Right.
Well, a lot of that ground now is being converted into permanent crops.
I see.
So the trees are coming in there, and I'm saying vineyard, almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. Well, it's like you said. Those crops do take an enormous amount of water.
Right.
So you have the aquifer underneath,
Right.
so you're taking more water because there's permanent crops. Back in the day in '77, when we had the drought was more. It was bad. It was terrible because I remember breaking
Right.
chisel points when
Right.
we're ripping ground and stuff, but we didn't have the permanent
So
crops. Now we have the permanent
What's
crops.
the answer? I mean, like you said, I can't imagine the state's going to come in
I think
and regulate crop selection.
Right.
But
I think that is what Merced County is doing, and some of the other surrounding counties, Stanislaus County, San Luis Obispo, other counties, are putting in an ordinance, not saying that you can't do a well, but saying that you have to send us all the data or present us, do
an analysis.
an analysis, and submit your data to get your permit to do your well.
So let me ask you about the whole issue of wells and drilling, because, over the summer, California is now regulating groundwater.
Right.
Even Texas had been regulating groundwater, and so we were a bit behind the curve. One
Right.
could argue.
Right.
Are you hearing pushback, or is the timing right? People understand as much as
think-
I don't want regulation. I think
That's kind of a catch-22, because I think in Merced County, anyways, as we're getting closer to an ordinance, we're seeing a little bit more pushback about about the transfer of water and how you transfer your water. If you have property that, I'm sorry, I talk with my hands in Portuguese.
no, so, as do I. I mean, come on.
The sale of water, and if you're transferring or if you're keeping it, and if you're going to keep it for your crops, that it's such
It's not easy.
It's the last 6 months. Merced County, we put a water committee together, and I'm on there along with one of my colleagues, and we've met with different water agencies in Merced County and got their input. So we've put a study together. I think we got a pretty good ordinance, but we've had a lot of input from all the different water agencies in Merced County.
So we've had some rains recently. Actually, for me, it was almost emotional when the water came out of the sky. Will it help in any significant way, or?
Oh no, I was just talking to some friends of mine yesterday about this, comparing from last year to this year, because like I said, we lease most of our ground out, but I do have 20 acres that I keep for winter forage because I raise some cattle. But the crop already looks, at this time last year, it was just bare dry, and it already looks 100%
I got a huge
better.
smile on my face because
So
it's really.
I'm serious. It really does. But we got a long ways to go because we got a long ways to catch up. But I remember in 1998 when El Nino hit, and 2 years before it was a drought, not as substantial as this has been. But we got 22 inches of rain, I believe. So if we get something like that,
But you look at El Nino's possibilities, and I keep seeing the numbers drop. I think we're now at 58%, whereas last month was 67%.
the only one that really knows doesn't speak. It's with action, not
no,
words.
I agree. I
so
agree. The
I mean, that's what
Almighty,
we have to focus on. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably.
But how have you and your friends done? I mean, as a general proposition, we had the recession, we had the drought. I mean, the beginning of this decade has just been brutal.
Well, it's been. I think from as being involved in county government and talking to other, it's been a challenge because we hit the boom in 2005 when the peak, and then in 2008 when it dropped. It was terrible, and I saw businesses, and we saw guys going out of business.
Friends, that's the point. I mean, if you're in Merced County, 275,000 people, you know everyone essentially.
No, it's true. And then you've seen businesses that have been in forever but just couldn't withstand. And our 2 years ago, our unemployment was 22%.
I know.
So we were, I think, second or third highest in the nation. It's at 13.
Still high.
So, but it's coming better. But I think
his name is John Pedrozo. He's a good man. He is the supervisor
Thank you very much.
for Merced County in the Central Valley. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.